immigrants awaiting deportation to countries of concern to our national security. Donald Trump compared to Hillary Clinton's plan to expand our refugee program by 550%. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we will have extreme vetting from immigrants coming from troubled parts of the world. We will suspend the refugee program coming from Syria until we can know who those people are. Donald Trump will put the safety and security of the American people first and always. And perhaps worst of all today was extraordinary to see Hillary Clinton take to the tarmac for a press conference and actually blame Donald Trump's words. Did you see this? Blame Donald Trump's rhetoric for what happened this last weekend. She actually said my running mate's rhetoric had, quote, been seized on by terrorists. And she said that his rhetoric was, quote, giving comfort to our adversaries. Well, Hillary, I got a message for you. Strength does not give comfort to the adversaries of the United States of America. Weakness does. And that will end the day that Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. And the American people know that Donald Trump will lead from day one with American strength. We will rebuild our military. We will restore our alliances. We will confront those who threaten us, and America will stand tall and safe again. Maybe that's why today more than 160 retired admirals and generals and 17 Medal of Honor winners have endorsed Donald Trump as our next commander-in-chief. Donald Trump will rebuild our military. He'll stand with our allies and stand up to our enemies. But Donald Trump and I also know that these homegrown terrorists, a naturalized American citizen, we suspect, perpetrated terrorist attacks in New York and New Jersey. We both know that this is also a battle that we have to wage at home. And Donald Trump knows that we have to have a president who will stand by the men and women who serve in law enforcement at every level in America and give them the tools and the freedom to protect our families. You know, we got a lot of members of the law enforcement community here with us today. Would you mind joining me in just showing them how much we appreciate the sacrifices that they and their families make on our behalf? Donald Trump, when he becomes the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America, I promise you, Donald Trump will stand with those in our law enforcement community. He'll make sure they have the resources and the freedom and are freed from the political correctness that is besetting law enforcement in America, and have the ability to take steps to protect our families and do all in their power to prevent the kind of terrorist attacks we saw this last weekend. Maybe that's why Donald Trump was just endorsed by 330,000 members of the Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in the United States of America. So when we make America great again, we start by making America safe again, don't we? But we've got to make America work again, too. The truth of the matter is, here in Iowa and in Indiana, my home state, and all across this country, we hear the rosy picture that the other side likes to portray. They They point to those statistics they can find in the economy, but people know better. The truth is, we're in the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. The last economic reports show that this American economy, the most powerful economy on earth, by a lot, grew at 1% in the last quarter. We have the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s when I got out of high school. And most shockingly of all, today there are more than 7 million Americans more living in poverty than the day that Barack Obama became president of the United States. Hillary Clinton's policies, more of the same. I got to tell you, I watched most of that speech she gave at her national convention a couple months ago. I couldn't watch all of it. I mean, I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband did, to be quite honest with you. You know, it wasn't that it was so long and late. I mean, it was just, there wasn't anything new, right? I mean, the truth of the matter is that her policies she's literally running on a third Obama term. She wants, after tax increases under Barack Obama, she wants to raise taxes by more than $1 trillion. After nearly doubling the national debt, $19 trillion that we're piling on our children and our grandchildren, she wants to increase spending a minimum by another $1 trillion. Sees Obamacare as just a good start. For heaven's sake, she almost invented it back when we used to call it Hillary Care. Remember that? More of the war on coal, more of the avalanche of red tape that's stifling the American economy. It truly is extraordinary. Now, the other side says that with all their rosy depictions of our economy, they said, you know, this is the best we can do. People in Iowa know better, though, don't we? It's not the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we're going to get this economy moving for all the people of Iowa and all the people all across the United States of America. Because Donald Trump has a plan. Donald Trump and I have a plan to reignite the American economy through the time-honored principles that go all the way back to the days of Ronald Reagan and even to the days of President John F. Kennedy. For starters, we're going to cut marginal income taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. And we're going to end death taxes once and for all. We're going to lower business taxes in America from one of the highest in the world to 15% so businesses in Iowa can compete and keep jobs here in Iowa and not export them around the world. And we recognize that the avalanche of red tape has been stifling growth in our economy. We had a heartbreaking story earlier this year in the Hoosier State. A company called Carrier picked up the phone one morning, called me at the governor's office and said, we're going to take 1,400 jobs out of Indiana that have been there for decades and we're going to move them to Mexico. I asked them why, and they told me, well, for starters, all of our competitors are already in Mexico. That's what they told me. They said, secondly, there's just been an avalanche of red tape coming out of Washington, D.C. In their industry alone, more than 50 new regulations and rules, and that's about the size of a phone book, each one of them, every single one of them. 50 new rules had come out affecting their business in the last 2 years alone. That's about one every 2 weeks. And so they're out. And so on the first day of a Trump-Pence administration, Donald Trump is going to sign a moratorium on any new red tape, and he's going to repeal every Obama executive order that's stifling jobs and stifling growth in this economy. And Donald Trump has a plan to end illegal immigration once and for all in America. We're going to build a wall, we're going to enforce our laws, and we're going to make sure that American citizens and those here legally have an opportunity to work in the American economy. We're also going to have a negotiator-in-chief in the White House. That's not what they call it in the Constitution yet. Donald Trump, one of the best negotiators on planet Earth, is going to step in as president. We're going to look at all the trade deals and agreements that the United States has entered into over the last 2 and 3 decades, and we're going to make sure that trade means American jobs. We're going to keep trade open all over the world, but we're going to put the American worker first again, whether it comes to NAFTA or getting out of TPP. The American worker is going to be the winner again. And Donald Trump and I know to reignite the American economy, to relight the pilot light of this economy, we've got to turn loose American energy again. Day one of the Trump-Pence administration, the war on coal comes to an end. We're going to develop all the resources of this land, coal and oil and natural gas, wind and solar and nuclear. Renewables are going to be at the center of American energy, and we'll promote conservation. And all of the above energy strategy will get all of the American people working again. Energy means growth. Now, I know this will work. Donald all the time is telling me, he says, talk about Indiana. He says, get over your natural Hoosier modesty. Right? He says, get over that. The reason I'm confident that this will work is because it's worked in Indiana. You know, I come from a state that works, just like you do here in Iowa. And join me, you know, Governor Terry Branstad is like the gold standard of conservative governors in America. Would you just give him a round of applause? He is a great, great leader. I mean, Terry and I will tell you that the truth is any growth in the economy in Iowa in the last 7.5 years or in Indiana is in spite of what's been coming out of Washington, D.C., not because of it. But in Indiana, like here, we've been doing what works. We've been living within our means, balancing budgets, letting people keep more of what they earn. I've cut taxes every year that I've been governor, all 4 years. We still have the largest budget reserves in our history. We've made record investments in education and in roads and bridges, and there's more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of our state. And that's exactly the kind of leadership and results that Donald Trump is going to bring to the White House. Now, Hillary Clinton hears those predictions, and she says that people that say the economy is going to come roaring back, that's her words are, that's wildly unrealistic. What she said. Well, Donald Trump and I think the only thing that's wildly unrealistic is electing the same people with the same bad ideas and expecting a different result. Donald Trump and I are going to change the direction of America back to growth and freedom and opportunity, and this economy is going to come roaring back. You know, we've got prosperity on the agenda this year. Most urgently, we've got security. There's one other issue that will travel well into the future, and that is literally the balance of the Supreme Court of the United States is on the ballot in 2016. With the passing, untimely passing of the late and great conservative jurist Antonin Scalia, the balance of the Supreme Court is literally in the hands of the American people. Which is, I think, right where it should be. I mean, recent years in this administration, it seems like there's no aspect of our lives too small for this administration to supervise, no provision of the Constitution too large for them to ignore. I mean, elect Hillary Clinton as your next president, you better get used to more unelected judges using unaccountable power to make unconstitutional decisions. But elect Donald Trump as your next president. And we will have appointments to the Supreme Court that span into the decades that will honor and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and all of our God-given liberties. So for the sake of the rule of law, this is what I want you to tell your neighbors when you leave here. For the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, let's decide right now here in Iowa that the next president to make appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States will be President Donald Trump. And lastly, let me say, right after security and prosperity and our Constitution, we have to ensure that we have the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land. You know, it really is extraordinary. Since I joined this campaign a few months ago, Most days I get up and I turn on the television with a stick. You just never know what's going to be on. I mean, the media spends more time talking about what Donald Trump said in the last 30 minutes than they do talking about what the Clintons have been up to for the last 30 years. But the American people are on to them. They're on to them. I mean, men and women, it's just been hard to keep up. And I don't want to keep you all night to try and go through the avalanche of controversies that are swirling out of her years as Secretary of State, her years with the Clinton Foundation. You know that foreign contributors and foreign governments cannot contribute to political campaigns in the United States. And yet, Hillary Clinton, while she was Secretary of State, had the Clinton Foundation accepting tens of millions of dollars from foreign governments and foreign billionaires. And the result of it was the AP reported that half of the private meetings that she gave as Secretary of State were with major contributors, major foreign contributors to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, now they said that if she's elected president that they'll no longer accept foreign donations because it'd be a conflict of interest. Trying to figure that one out. So it wasn't a conflict of interest. It'd be a conflict of interest if you were president, but it wouldn't be a conflict of interest if you were Secretary of State in charge of all the foreign policy of the United States of America. You know, the American people are tired of that kind of pay-to-play politics and double talk, and that's going to end the day that Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. When Donald Trump becomes president, I promise you, we're going to uphold the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land. And his only special interest will be you, the American people, and he's going to fight for you every single day. You know, with this I'll close with one admonition, but also, you know, as we talk about the choice, and the choice could not be more clear. And in my lifetime, men and women, I've never seen a clearer choice. Have you? I mean, this is not a choice between someone who will have America growing this much and one who will have America growing this much. Sometimes it's been that way in my life. This is a choice between whether we're going to continue going downhill toward a weaker America, a more vulnerable America, a weaker economy, walking farther away from our constitutional principles and the high standards in public life, or whether we're going to plant our feet and turn around and march back up the hill toward freedom and strength and American prosperity and our Constitution and our high standards. And I know what the American people are going to choose. But Donald and I still believe that in these times of such great division, it seems to be there's so many things that divide us, so few things that unite us as they once did. I actually heard my counterpart on the other ticket say several times on TV yesterday morning, he said, we're a divided nation. Well, the truth is the other party spends a whole lot of energy dividing. It was just about a week ago, in case you weren't invited to that New York City fundraiser with Barbara Streisand. Hillary Clinton said, quote, you can put half of Trump supporters in what I call a basket of deplorables. Racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it, irredeemable, not America. That's just carving up Americans and name calling. We know better than that. Donald Trump and I know there will always be more that unites us in these United States of America than will ever divide us. And when the Trump-Pence teams arrives in the White House, we're going to unite the American people behind the ideals and principles that have made this country great and will make America great again. And those principles are very simple, and they all boil down to meat of faith. Faith in the American people, first and foremost. I tell you, to know Donald Trump is to know somebody who has a boundless faith in the American people. I was with him at the Economic Club of New York last week, kind of a fancy schmancy deal. I was kind of a duck out of water, to be honest with you. But Donald Trump said there, he said, we're going to get this economy growing at 4% again. And then he leaned in and said, the economists don't like me saying that, but it's going to be more than that. Because he believes in the American people. He believes in the boundless ability of the American people, left to their own devices with greater freedom, to bring this country roaring back. We both believe in the same thing because we were raised in the midst of it. You know, the truth is, we've got a lot in common in our story. His grandfather immigrated to this country. My grandfather came to this country from Ireland, went through Ellis Island. My grandpa got on a train. He went to Chicago, Illinois, drove a bus for 40 years. I was named after that Irishman, and he passed away when I was 26, and I can't imagine what he's thinking today. But Donald Trump's grandfather was an immigrant. His father, like my father, was a self-made man. His dad built a great business in Queens, and my father went down to southern Indiana and built a little gas station business, and both of them were dedicated to their families and raised us on a foundation of family and faith and freedom. We were both raised to believe that to whom much is given, much will be required. And so for Donald Trump, that meant going from Queens to Manhattan Island and building skyscrapers to the heavens. For me, it was a calling into public service. I always tell people, other than a whole lot of zeros, he and I have a lot in common. A lot. And that's a belief in the American dream, because we lived it. It's not a bumper sticker in our lives. It's what we saw. And it's what we believe in this country today. And I promise you that when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we're going to fight every day to open the doorway to the American dream for every American, regardless of race or creed or color or gender. And we're going to reunite the passion for the American dream all across this country and unite this nation around it. It's not just about faith in our people, but it's also recognizing that what's ever been true of this nation is still true today. That we are and shall ever be, from the time the Mayflower first arrived to this day. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So my last word to you today is, I hope you leave here today and I hope you leave here today not having come to hear a rally or a speech, but I hope you leave here today with a burden on your heart. Men and women, we're seeing real momentum here in Iowa and real momentum across the country, but we need you to go tell somebody about it. We need you to tell somebody that we have a campaign and a candidate that's got a vision for the American people, faith in the American people, and faith in that foundation of this nation that can truly make America great again. But it's going to take all of us to do it. I mean, the truth is, it's going to continue to get rough from here in. I mean, politics is rough and tumble business, and there's going to be a lot of jousting and a lot of noise and a lot of distractions. But I just encourage you to remember this: all the TV shows in the world, all the front pages of newspapers in the world, all the website stories and tweets do not matter one iota of you leaning over a backyard fence, stopping at a co-worker's desk, talking to somebody at your place of worship, or stopping outside the drugstore and telling them why we must ensure that Iowa sends Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. You have the power. You have the power. So let's go do it. So let's go do it. We have a choice to make, so here it is. Let me lay it out for you one more time, and then I'll let you get to your evening. If you want a president who will protect this nation, rebuild our military, restore our relationship with our allies, and stand with them and oppose our enemies and hunt down and destroy those who would threaten our people and inspire violence in our homeland. If you want a president who will restore law and order to the cities and towns of this nation, who will stand by law enforcement at every level and ensure they have the resources and support from the highest level to do their work. If you want a president who will cut taxes, grow the economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel, if you want a president who will build a wall, make Mexico pay for it, and reform our immigration laws so that our laws work for the citizens of this country and those who are here legally. And lastly, and I worked in Washington for 12 years, and I promise you this one, if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, then let me tell you, Iowa, tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, if you want all those things, you have but one choice. And I'm here to tell you, that man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. Let's go make sure that Iowa is ready, and we will elect Donald Trump to be the 45th President of the United States of America, and we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Iowa. Let's go get it done. God bless you all.